Yeah.
Okay.
The Antikythera Mechanism may have jammed from time to time. A 5,000-year-old receipt for beer in Sumeria holds history's first known signature. There's a 5,000-year-old road at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. And the origin story of domestic cats begins in Tunisia, apparently. All this and much, much more coming up in the next few hours. Thanks for joining us. I'm Michael Bott.
I'm Rupert Soskin. Hello, everybody. It's good to see you all.
Yeah, it certainly is. You know, we can't take this for granted, ever, can we, Rupert?
No.
Turning up and there being people here come to watch us. Anyway, less of that. So all that stuff, news to come. Before we do all that, though, if you've got a moment, well, if you find you like this stuff, new here for the first time, whatever, do take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button. It helps the boat go faster. I think also before we kick off with the news, just a little bit of acknowledgement from some folks I can see in the chat. Familiar faces, familiar names. Rupert, say hello to a few people while we're just waiting to kick off.
We've got a lot of familiar names here. Yes, hello, Nigel. Now, I'm going to embarrass both of us, actually, British long barrows, because you're another Andy, aren't you? And it's terrible trying to keep my head on handles. But Keppel, Jorman, Joris, Carl, hello everybody. Dan, Nelly, nice to see you, Nelly. Lily,
Nigel, did you mention
Andy,
that? Nigel, Daniel, Nelly, fantastic. Can you see it on the screen? Has your sound gone?
I think you can.
Oh, cool.
No, can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely, I can now. No, the point is that familiar faces, you may notice there, they're all Patreons, aren't they? So it's nice to see them.
Pretty much so far, yeah. Stephanie's there as well, in her Moxie guise.
Yeah. And if you haven't already, do take a look at our Patreon page, see if there's anything there for you. It'd be lovely to have you join them. They're a great bunch. Anything else before we actually start the news and stuff?
Before
I
we
suppose.
Start, I don't know. We can tell people we're going to Turkey.
Well, that and a bit of a milestone. You know, I mean, most of it, people know that we passed the 100,000 subscriber mark a few days ago, and
we did that on the last live, though, didn't we? Hadn't we done that just on the last live?
No, that was when we were talking to Patreon. It's 2 weeks since. Yeah.
See,
we were just about to. Yeah, but that happened.
100,000, and now we're on 100,500 something. So
yeah. And the nice silver YouTube plaque arrives on Monday, which is the very day, that we're flying to Turkey. We'll talk a little bit more about that later and what to expect as we go along. But I think, without further ado, Nelly asks, for example, are we ready for Izmir? As we'll ever be. Nelly, thank you for asking.
Yeah. I think that's the correct answer. Yes.
Yeah. There's too much to know, but we know some stuff that other folks don't. So that's
cool. True too.
Yeah,
that's true.
So you can look forward to that. All right, I'm going to kick off, and we are going to talk about the Antikythera Mechanism.
We're going.
Right, there we go. So, mysterious Antikythera Mechanism may have jammed constantly, the headline says, anyway, like a modern printer. Was it just a janky toy, ? The mysterious Antikythera Mechanism is 2,000 years old. Long puzzled scientists now research into its triangle-shaped teeth might finally reveal its intended purpose. I don't know if we're going to get any benefit by having a closer look at the actual mechanism itself, because there have been quite a few.
Not.
No, there have been quite a few, sort of detailed examinations and reconstructions of its internal workings, haven't there? Which sort of make it a bit more clear what's going on within. But these researchers seem to have been doing a deep dive. The mysterious Antikythera mechanism may not have been a cryptic celestial measuring device, but just a toy prone to constant jamming. And the secret to its true purpose, according to new research, is its triangle-shaped teeth. Discovered in a shipwreck in 1901, the Antikythera mechanism has remained an enigma for more than a century. Several years ago, a CT scan suggested that the 2,000-year-old device was an astronomical tool consisting of a hand crank, many interlocking gears, and various indicators. The mechanism could seemingly perform many tasks. These included giving the date according to the Egyptian and Greek calendars, displaying the positions of the sun, moon, and planets within the zodiac, and predicting future lunar and solar eclipses. But was celestial measurement really the purpose of this fascinating device? Was it meant to be a powerful computer or a simple toy? And was it a one-off made for a wealthy patron, or just one example of a mass-produced tool? For decades, researchers have attempted to understand how accurate the mechanism is, as that would help resolve its intended purpose. It wasn't very accurate, if it wasn't very accurate, for example, then it might have been a toy or an educational model. But if it was incredibly precise, it might have been used by court astrologers to make forecasts and horoscopes. Unfortunately, the Antikythera mechanism spent more than 2 millennia buried at the bottom of the sea, and an unknown amount of time functioning before that. Its gears are highly corroded, and many parts are missing. But however, triangles point the way. In a new study that submitted April the 1st... sorry, Rupert?
I said, of course they do.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, carry on.
Submitted April the 1st to the preprint server Arxiv. Argentinian scientists created a computer simulation that replicated the Antikythera mechanism's movements. This simulation incorporated errors from the imprecise nature of its manufacture, where the gears didn't have exact spacing between them. Crucially, unlike previous efforts to recreate the mechanism, the researchers also included an accurate model of the mechanism's triangle-shaped gear teeth, which affect how well gears interlock with each other, with one another, and how well the indicators point to the intended astronomical target. From this model, researchers found that the mechanism wasn't very useful at all. It could only be cranked to about 4 months into the future before it inevitably jammed or its gears simply disengaged. The user would then have to reset everything to get it going again, similar to trying to fix a modern printer. We've all been there, I'm sure. Considering that the indicators marking the date cover an entire year, this jamming problem seems unfortunate. One possibility is that the Antikythera mechanism was a fancy toy that was never intended to be fully accurate, or that it came with an instruction manual that required users to reset it after a few turns, much like a mechanical watch whose mainspring must be occasionally adjusted by hand. But given the obvious craftsmanship that went into creating such a complex device, the researchers don't believe that the mechanism was just a janky toy. After all, if it was never intended to be accurate, detailed, or forward-looking, why bother putting all that hard work in the first place? Another possibility, which the researchers think is more likely, is that the current measurements of the gears and teeth are off.
And there you have it. In a nutshell.
CT scans can only provide a certain level of resolution, and 2,000 years of corrosion may have warped or distorted the components far beyond their original state. the mechanism's original creators may have made it precise enough to avoid jamming and still provide reliable predictions for years into the future. Either way, the Antikythera Mechanism represents the apex of ancient engineering expertise, and despite modern technology and tools such as CT scans, its ultimate purpose may stay forever mysterious. What do you think, Rupert? Well, inaccurate measurement or inaccurate mechanism?
Well, the thing is, the serious and not so serious. So, we've included this in tonight's show because the Antikythera Mechanism is, for such a unique object, it is so important because it shows that level of thinking, if nothing else, that far back, and therefore important to include it because it's ongoing research and people have come out with these ideas from the research. I do think it's a little bit bonkers that they've taken something that's been 2,000 years on the seabed and thought that they could get accurate scans to give them a serious idea of how accurate it might have been. I personally think it's a little bit silly, but it wouldn't have been a toy, would it? You wouldn't go to the trouble of the amount of gearing mechanisms there must have been to make that thing work, and it wouldn't have been the first one because
you have to practice.
It's just too sophisticated. There must have been any
something
number
like
of,
that. Yeah.
What'd you say?
You'd have to practice to make something.
Prototype, yes.
Oh, yeah, there would be prototypes.
I dare say at some point when technology just romps ahead to whatever extent that maybe they'll be able to extract more information. But it does make you wonder, though, doesn't it? If absolutely, no, far too much work for it to be a toy. It doesn't make any sense.
British Long Barrows and Associated Monuments says, have they not made a 3D? I think that's the point. I think they have. It exists as a model somewhere. Vulpes in Kulta wouldn't it have been hand cranked, meaning the user would hear the gears click. We don't know, really. We don't know if it was had a sort of clickable mechanism or whether it was a smooth,
you're probably right. But
maybe,
But I think what they're saying from this is the way the cogs actually worked, that it wouldn't have been robust enough and it would have popped apart like your chain coming off your bike all the time. Maybe. It's unknown,
Daniel says, I have seen it, as have many of you, and I scoff that they could reconstruct it. Maybe. But I'd have to backtrack. Insufficient data. I'd have to backtrack because we did something about the Antikythera Mechanism not so long ago. I'm sure we referenced some 3D wizardry that they'd been able to do.
Was it a couple of years ago or was it more?
Who knows? This thing here, you see it?
Well, I'm embarrassed to say there's another article we're doing later in the show, and I remembered that we'd done something about that I thought, well, that must have been last year, and so I dug out the old one, and it was 4 years ago. So I think our lives are disappearing faster than we're aware, really.
Yeah. But I think I would put my money on there being, just a little inaccuracy at any stage, dependent on initial conditions. You get one thing out at the beginning, and I have no idea what process they've gone through here. But, if there's something slightly out along the way, you get garbage right at the end. That seems much more likely.
Rubbish in, rubbish out.
But it multiplies along, like the Antikythera Mechanism itself. Unless there's accuracy at front end, you're going to get gobbledygook with no relation to the stuff at the front end.
As they did say at the end of the article, towards the end of the article that they don't think it's a toy because why would you go to that amount of effort?
Yeah.
And Nelly just said it as well. And I think that's the crux of it, really. That I don't understand what thinking they'd say was a kind of toy, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, we're moving away from the Aegean. It was in the Aegean, wasn't it? Of course, that the Antikythera was found. Mongolia. I didn't mention this at the beginning. Yes, here we go. Let's have a look at this. Oh, that's interesting. What are you seeing? Are you seeing a screen share insert, or are you seeing a sort of weird?
I'm seeing two of you.
Okay, well, that's not right.
There you go. That's the Antikythera Mechanism.
Well, yeah. Okay. Well, that is incorrect.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
We've had tech shenanigans over the last days. We don't really
talk about Turkey for a moment, Rupert, while I try and reset this.
Okay, yeah, okay. We can talk about Turkey. Yes, Mike and I, we're flying to Turkey on Monday. We're going to Izmir, and we're looking at deep history, really. Basically, what we're doing is, as part of the GÖBEKLI TEPE to Stonehenge project, obviously, I hope, we're finishing up, really, on the absolute extreme west coast of Turkey. And it's all to do with that spread of obsidian trade, really, how people were really spreading through that whole region, right across the Aegean and on up. So we're going to the latest or the most recent historically place that we're visiting. We're going to go to Ephesus. And what's fascinating about that whole area is you've got the deep history is just there in your face, because you've got 8,000-year-old sites just a little bit to the south, 9,000-year-old sites, sitting there more or less beside 2,000-year-old site. So it's going to be a great trip, and the weather's looking good, so film should be all right. Fingers crossed. Oh, you've gone green? No. So yeah, we're not there for long. So we've kind of got to hit the ground running. But it's amazing actually when you look at the things that have been found through that region. There's one of the other Hoyuks, Exi Hoyuk, which is it's a bit further east than we're actually going. But they found there 8,600-year-old, so it's a bit more recent, but 8,600-year-old sewing bits, like needles and loom weights, that kind of thing. And you're talking about 8,600 years ago. I just love that. We think of all these things as deeply primitive. They're just not. People have been pretty damn sophisticated for a very, very, very long time.
So, Rupert, what can you see on the screen right now?
I can see the Antikythera Mechanism.
Is that all? That's the trouble.
Yeah.
I have lost all control here. The tech has completely let me down, and I think we may have to abort this evening. I can't do anything. If I do the thing of turning it off and turning it on again, then this show will be lost.
Okay. What happens if you turn that off and it's just the two of us?
I can't. I've lost control. As I say, I can't alter anything at the moment.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. No.
Interesting.
The computer has slowed down.
Yeah, I don't have controls at my end with this interface, folks. So it's funny. We came back to this one because you remember when we were doing full screen stuff before that all sound went. So it came back to this one, but this one has got new shenanigans in it. Andy says, Who said? No, Mardi said we can see the black arrow. What black arrow?
Oh well, it doesn't matter. I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to abort it. I'm very, very, very sorry. I don't know what else to do because I've lost control of my computer. Basically, I mean you can still hear me, obviously, but I can't control. Then I'm afraid we'll lose the show because I can't come back into this stream afterwards.
Right.
So I'll try, but I can't. The trouble is, I can't guarantee that this won't happen again. Oh, no, fellas, folks, guys and gals, I'm so gutted. I'm so gutted. But the only thing I can do is shut my computer down and try and restart it. So I'm going to say bye-bye from me. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed the stuff about the Antikythera Mechanism.
Well, there's people saying, can we just carry on as a podcast? I mean, we could just talk about the stuff. It depends what you can see. I mean, if you can't use your computer at all, so you can't see the things that we're talking about either.
I can't control anything. You can only hear my voice. So you're stuck with that image of the Antikythera mechanism. I see. Yeah. There. No, I've got to. I'm wrapping up. I'm so sorry, folks. I don't know what's going on. All right, we'll let you know. Bye-bye for now. Thank you for being here, and thanks for your patience. All right, folks.
All right.
Bye.
See
ya. So this is the thing that happened. I thought it was to do with, certain programs being
we're
open.
We're still on though, aren't we? We're still live. I'm still getting comments coming up.
No. No. I've got to restart my computer anyway, whichever way this goes. So, so I can't even shut down Ecamm.
Right, okay.
I can't even shut down. Oh no, it's come up. So everything's happening about 5 seconds or 10 seconds after I move my mouse or click on anything.
Right.
So you get how impossible that is for me.
Yes, thank you, folks. Yes, yes, we're comments there. Steve just said yes, we are still live and people can hear us. So.
Oh really?
Well done for not disappearing yet. Yeah, it's too weird.
Well, I'm sorry, folks.
Gosh. Okay.
This will probably be it, though. It'll probably definitely shut down now.
All right. You see, I can't go live from my end. Okay, all right, we'll have to figure out a plan B for next time. All right. Well, we can't schedule this for next week, folks, because next week we're going to be in Turkey. So we'll do a regroup for sometime after we get back. But some colourful swearing, Marty. I swear like a navvy most of the time. You don't know how well behaved I am when we're on air. I can't see you, Mike. What's happening? Now that would be interesting. You see, if Mike's gone and you can still hear me, that shouldn't happen because this is all being through his studio, not mine. Thank you, Stephen. Well, what I can tell you is that's amazing, though. Actually, because this this shouldn't be possible All right. So if Mike's system has, because he locked up earlier on, and we thought we knew what that problem was, and clearly it wasn't. All right. Well, I'll tell you then. In a nutshell,
it won't die. It's gone. The entire system's gone zombie. I've been clicking, shut down, finish.
Oh, have you?
Everything. Yeah. It won't die.
Everybody can still hear us.
That's crazy. Because I've been
Everybody can still hear us. So, we can do this as a podcast if people want to.
No, I've lost control because I can't see any of my
sitting listening to us.
Yes, but I can't see any of my stuff. I can't read anything. I can't do anything.
All right, well, I can read the stuff, and I'm sorry, it's funny.
No, it won't work.
Just honestly, how frustrating can things be? All right, well, look, I'll tell you what. We'll cherry pick then, shall we? We'll cherry pick here.
No, I've got to
because you what? What'd you say?
No, I've finished it. I can't do anything. This is not good entertainment. I just wish somebody would beam me up right now.
Oh, yes. Come.
Well, astonishingly, there are folks still here. It was so sad to see the British version of Panic. Thank you, Joseph. I know we've managed to come back onto the stream, but I have no guarantee that won't happen again. What do you want to do, Rupert? What's the vote out there, guys and gals? The only thing from my point of view is that this was intended to remain on YouTube, as a watchable thing. So obviously that's not going to happen now. So I wouldn't leave this up on the channel. It's a question of whether the guys that are alive now want us to continue with this right now. Rupert, are you happy to continue?
Yeah, I'm happy to continue. I think it would probably be a good idea to maybe cherry pick something here, because otherwise we'll be here all night. But yeah, I mean, I think for those folks of you who've stuck with it, well done.
We were just about to go to Mongolia.
Who's going to Mongolia?
We were.
Oh, we were just about to go. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, sorry. You threw me for a minute because I think it was Kate. Was it you who said you were packing to go to Orkney? So Kate came along. She didn't have a clue what was happening.
Anyway, look, there are good folks out there that invested in their evening here and are urging us to continue. So thanks for that. We'll do our best, and apologies if we have to. Do the same again. So I'll go to Mongolia. Is that okay, Rupert, with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do the same.
Yeah, well, that worked. Teeth from a 2,100-year-old burial pit in Mongolia tell a tale of soldiers far from home. Yeah, I won't go large with that. We don't want our screens full of skeletons. So, article says... It's quite a long one, this. Research led by Jilin University, China, is providing bioarchaeological evidence on a mass grave at the Bayan Bulag site in Mongolia containing the remains of soldiers from the Han Xiongju War. Genetic, isotopic and tooth analyses indicate that the individuals were not local to Mongolia, but originated from North China. I presume it's going to tell us how far that is.
I looked it up on the map. They were about 800 miles away from home.
800, okay.
800 and 1,000 miles away.
Yeah. The Han Xiongnu War was a series of military conflicts between the Han Empire and the Mongolian Xiongnu Confederation in the early Iron Age. It's a pity we don't know what we're talking about, isn't it? Yeah. And the other thing is this prehistory? Really? Probably not. But there we go.
The Iron Age. Well, it is that eternal dilemma, isn't it, that so little Chinese archaeology gets translated into English. So we have chasms in our knowledge. I don't just mean us. I mean generally in the West. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I digress. So the Bayan Bulag site in Mongolia was first identified in 1957, but major excavations did not take place until 2009, when archaeologists uncovered a fortified structure, pottery, iron tools, bronze crossbow locks, iron halberds, coins, and a clay seal with the mark of a Han official. These findings suggest that the site could have been built by the Han Empire in 104 BC, as the Shushan Chen, or fortification for receiving surrender, recorded in historical records. See, it's history. What was not recorded in historical writings was any reference, here's the kicker, to the 20 or more dismembered skeletons found at the bottom of a burial pit. Previous osteological analysis from the 2009 excavation reported evidence of interpersonal violence, including dismembered limbs and signs of execution. Some individuals were found in kneeling positions, suggesting ritualized treatment or execution of captives. But who were they? Uncertainties regarding the identities and affiliations of warriors buried at battlegrave sites have persisted due to the lack of direct evidence. Advances in biotechnology now allow for the extraction of ancient DNA and isotopes from skeletal tooth remains, with methods to reconstruct individual origins, regional recruitment practices, and even dietary patterns of soldiers. In the study, here we get to it, the Bioarchaeological Perspectives on the Ancient Han Xiongnu War, Insights from the Iron Age site of Bayan Bulag, published in the Journal of Archaeological Science. Give me a round of applause. Researchers applied a multidisciplinary approach to determine the origins and identities of individuals buried at the Bayan Bulag site through their teeth. Analysis combined ancient DNA sequencing, strontium isotope testing, and stable carbon isotope analysis to build on previous osteological and archaeological assessments. Genome-wide, I could have missed all this out and got cut to the chase, I suppose. Genome-wide analysis of ancient DNA from 14 tooth samples confirmed that all individuals were male, with 11 having sufficient coverage for detailed ancestry assessment. The 11 were genetically consistent with ancient and modern Han Chinese populations from North China. That looks a bit detailed. Strontium analysis of tooth enamel confirmed that the individuals did not originate from Mongolia. Values measured gave us isotopic signatures from North China, particularly the Ordos Plateau and the Central Plain, suggesting that individuals were born and raised outside the Mongolian plateau. Miss that paragraph. The picture that emerges is of a Han military strategy involving the construction of fortified garrisons along frontier borders rather than permanent occupation of Xiongnu territory. Bayan Bulag appears to have been one such outpost, staffed by farmers likely conscripted to be soldiers dispatched from rural northern border regions of the Han Empire. It remains unclear if they died in battle with the Xiongnu, in the aftermath of battle as captives, or in a disciplinary action at the hands of the Han commanders. Say words, Rupert. Save me from myself. That was rather a long... Well...
Do you know what's interesting with this is the fact that so they found these 20 guys in a burial pit, possibly executed, possibly died in. To me, it looks, reading the details of, some of them were in a kneeling position. It sounds like execution stuff going on. So here's these soldiers between 800 and 1,000 miles from home, as far as the strontium analysis is concerned. And it's just, we don't change, do we? We don't change. What are we doing 1,000 miles away from home fighting? It's like, go home, mind your own business.
2,000 years ago. Well, the Romans were doing it, and
yes, they were.
I think we're speaking now to the problem, that we have, that we haven't a clue about what was going on in this part of the world. At least we've got a vague idea of Western Europe, what was going on. But of course we do, because, it's our sort of area. We've always had Roman history, at least vaguely implanted in our brains, but we know nothing about the rich tapestry of stuff that was going on, in the Far East, in China. And we'd love to do so. I think we'd have to grow an extra brain or two to accommodate, from scratch, the structures and the names and all the rest of it.
Is people with expertise in that part of the world who could give you real pointers on what research to actually absorb. Because, it's amazing that, the Great Wall of China, or however many thousand miles of it, what was it, 4,000 miles or something ridiculous, that whilst that was started thousands of years ago, the main bits that people walk across now are, I think they're, 500-600 years old, something like that. So it's been a long time of fortifying your boundaries.
And I think what it'll take is somebody to do a YouTube channel about Chinese prehistory, basically. It's another world entirely to us, which is unfortunate, because of our Western-centric focus. We talk about early pottery and the development of farming and all the rest of it. Who were the earliest potters? The Chinese. Way before, and in sophisticated ways as well. So you begin to wonder.
Aidan says there's loads written about the Neolithic China in the human past, and
good point.
There is, but it's all surface.
Good point.
It's
well, at least we get we get a framework. And it's the matching chronologies about what was happening where in the world. We get sort of skewed. That's all I'm saying. Out of out of
well,
ignorance.
Do you know what? One of the things. Do you know what? Every now and again, we've when something crops up in the news that's noteworthy. We've done a few things that have been about China. Actually, probably more about Siberia, but we've certainly done a few things about China over the last few years. And some of the most fascinating ones are nothing to do with warfares and burials, but the cultural things where we did a thing a couple of years back about a mint that they'd found in China, Bronze Age mint, where the coinage that they were producing back then was quite extraordinary. These spade coins.
That was somewhere just off the Silk Road. Somewhere along the Silk Road. So relatively recent.
Some of that stuff. In fact, that whole Bronze Age site that they excavated there, I wish I could remember the name of it. I really don't. But
to
extraordinary stuff that they were finding. The pottery that was coming out of there was just superb.
Alt FPV Mongolian archaeology, now all done by native professionals. I think it said it right at the beginning that this research was led by Jilin University, China. I'm sure plenty of It's extraordinary. I don't want to go off on another side tangent as well, but it's the interconnectedness of archaeologists all over the world. People forget that. I mean, for example, at Göbekli Tepe, the archaeology done at Göbekli Tepe is done. Is done by a German university. A lot of the stuff that we're going to be looking at in Turkey is led by a lady out of a Austrian university. People from all over do stuff all over. It's actually quite amazing how the cross
when you think
fertilization
how much everything has changed over the last years because of the internet. The fact that we can all communicate at the drop of a hat, as opposed to writing each other letters and waiting days for papers to arrive and what have you. It's changed everything.
Different countries were doing archaeology in different countries way before the internet. That's what I mean.
Absolutely, but that's what I'm saying. Where you've got international teams now, that the international teams can work at distance, all interrelating with each other, in a way that was just monstrously difficult before. It has changed everything. But something else that is very different, looking at China specifically, that if you remember the Caucasian mummies, is something we've talked about briefly before, but the Caucasian mummies that are over in they're close to the western boundaries of China, I think they are. But when the first non-Chinese archaeologists asked to go over to have a look at these mummies, when they tried for years to get permission, and it was consistently refused. But when they were finally allowed to go in and they got to see the mummies, the heads had all been removed because the regime at the time did. They had this cultural line that China had developed entirely on its own, purity of race, if you like, and so that all the heads were removed so that you couldn't see that they weren't Chinese, and that was rectified over, I think it was an 18-month period or something that was all dealt with, but that you can see how much that's all changed now. China's relationship with the rest of the world has changed so much in the last decade.
Stuart says, just think about Flint Dibble. He's worked in Pompeii, Athens, and now teaches in Cardiff.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just one example amongst many. All hail Flint for everything.
Indeed, all hail Flint. Yeah,
popped in by any chance. Yeah. Let's go to Uruk. That's my suggestion.
Yeah.
Are you happy about that?
I'm happy about that. It's funny. Uruk, it's just so Lord of the Rings for me, because you just think of the Uruk Hai. I'm sorry if you're not into Lord of the Rings.
No, that puts us right off kilter. 5,000-year-old receipt for Sumerian beer features history's first known signature. That's a good one, isn't it? History's first known signature. Let's see if this will work. There we go. It's worth having a close-up look at, isn't it?
When you think that's only like 3 inches square, apparently.
Yes. And the beer in question is that thing top left. I think there's reference to wheat in the bottom left there. Anyway, let me read on, make a bit more clarity out of this. According to archaeology news site Ancient Origins, the Sumerian tablet was first uncovered at the site of the city of Uruk, located in ancient Mesopotamia, which is in present-day Iraq. It was part of the private Shoyan collection, a collection of tablets and manuscripts dating back to ancient written history. The tablet itself is a one-of-a-kind artifact, not only because of its detailed inscription about an ancient beer sale, but also because it holds what many believe to be the world's first signature. Symbols on the top left of the tablet, the supposed signature, translate as Ku and Sim, which experts have interpreted as spelling the name Kushim. The name was possibly that of a government scribe who created the recording on the clay tablet for administrative purposes. What are you chuckling at, young Rupert?
It's just more academics saying, "Well, I think this," and someone else going, "No, it's not that."
However, as I was about to say, others suspect Kushim could be the name of a government agency or title rather than a specific individual. The inscribed name has been found in 17 other tablets. On some of them, the name is addressed as Sangha, or Temple Administrator. Israeli author N. Harari, who wrote the historical book Sapiens. Yuval help me out. YN. What's his first name? Harari. What's his first name? Yuval. Is it Yuval Harari? Yeah. Who wrote the historical book Sapiens, A Brief History of Mankind, noted that the inscription on the ancient tablet reads 29,086 measures barley, 37 months Kushim. Whatever. The etching has been interpreted as some sort of recipe for the purchase of barley, which was commonly used to brew Sumerian beer. Other symbols on the tablet depict the industrial process of beer brewing using barley or corn up until it becomes a jar of beer. I've been noticing out of the corner of my eye here, the comments have been going. Rupert, have you been paying attention?
I'm trying to pay attention.
Sorry,
I was just finding out that
I can't do two things at once here.
No, yes.
Well, all hail to TEPE holder, who really loves the prehistory guys. Really, I'm not just saying that because I'm drunk.
Dear.
Anyway, I will carry on. Was there anything else, though? I thought there was quite a lot of comments, but I could only see them out the corner of my eye.
There have been streams and streams and streams of comments, and
right.
I wasn't interrupting you because otherwise you wouldn't get through it. You carry on and I'll cherry pick.
Okay. So the process appears to take place in a temple in ancient Mesopotamia around 3100 BCE, dating the tablet back to 5,000 years ago, about the first time that the first bit of Stonehenge was being thought about. As part of a private collection, the historical artefact, which measures 3 by 3 inches, was sold in auction under Bloomsbury Auctions, an auction house based in London, UK. A wealthy American collector purchased the ancient Sumerian tablet for $230,000 in August 2020. Oh, that's interesting. That was back in 2020. I thought that record, that sale was newsworthy now. One only gets a few chances to work with any item of such importance, marking a milestone in perhaps the most important human invention, writing, said Timothy Bolton, a specialist at Bloomsbury Auctions. So, is this actually news that came up recently or not? Is this
the news? Is the recognition of it being a signature, not the same.
Okay. But the artefact was projected to fetch a sum of £90,000, or a little below $200,000. But bidders at the auction showed a high enthusiasm for the tablet, which possibly bears the earliest known personal name recorded in writing. Yeah, don't doubt that would be a good number of people would pay good money for that. But I think we've made the important points about that. There's not much more to say about that, is Rupert? I mean, we could talk about beer, but that would take us off on a whole other stream of consciousness.
It was
about the relationship of beer to farming and early farming, etc.
And noteworthy it is too. I mean, what was interesting about this in particular is, in many ways, it's not the detail. It's the fact that if you've got a signature associated with a receipt for beer, then clearly this is on a much grander scale than people producing beer just in a settlement for, local drinking.
I
And
think
it's
this
that
is,
really. It's just all those little things that actually give you pointers at just how widespread these communities must have been.
I think that's something I'm looking forward to going to Turkey. And I mean, obviously, so many of these Mesopotamian proto-cities or cities have been excavated, but bare excavations never ever give you an impression of the busyness and the business that was going on in these places and the scale of it. We always assume that everything took place on a much smaller scale. Yeah, which to a degree is true, but I think if we visited one of these places, we'd be amazed at, that we wouldn't really be able to distinguish it, a busy street back then from a busy street in a town today.
No,
and that's what I'm looking forward to visiting Ephesus for, because there we've got a fantastic classical, Greek/Roman town, probably stretching back before that. And my anticipation is that the streets, and there are streets, or the one big street going down to the harbour, there will be quite throng with tourists, and that will be the right thing.
Yes.
Rather than, I wish we could have this place to ourselves. But no, if you want to get a sense of,
it should be buzzing. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's the big agora, the marketplace there as well.
Well, I saw a historian the other day talking about Ephesus, saying that at its peak, it had about 250,000 people there.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was anything like that big. But I think that there's a really important point that we never factor in when we talk about settlements in prehistory and how things have changed for us in the modern world. So take as an example that we know, for example, that it's a problem in Italy, has been for a decade or more, that villages are just dying quite literally because all the people they no longer work on local farms and what have you. They all have to go and work in, they've got their office jobs in the cities or what have you, and so the villages themselves are just it's too inconvenient and too far for people to go. And as a direct comparison, here where I live in the south of France, that my village now has just under 200 people living in it. And if you go back 100 years or 120 years, there were 2,000 people living in it. And its transport is the thing. People they were either working on farms or they were going walking to work, which might have taken them an hour or even 2 hours in the morning to walk to the local hat making factory, for example, something like that, and then walk home again. And now we get in cars and we travel crazy distances. That in prehistoric terms, the distances that we take utterly for granted would have been a day or potentially 2 days travel. So putting it into perspective, that the villages that are dying now because people can't put in the travel because they're working in cities, that back then people weren't going to the shops. There weren't very many, and so villages and towns were much bigger than we imagine, because people weren't traveling those distances except for major trading exercises. So yeah, it's all very distorted, our world now.
Yeah, and to and from big places like Ephesus, Rome, Athens, etc. Anyway, we'll be saying more about that, I guess, when we're actually be there. So just to backtrack a bit, Right News Network, quite right, beer is probably the reason we started farming. Absolutely. Why not? I mean, the earliest beer brewing is probably, I've forgotten the name of the cave, but it's over in the Levant, and I think it's I think it's in Israel.
Where they found the major beer making setup.
Yeah, it was in the mouth of a cave. There's depressions and carved out.
They found a huge setup.
But we're talking before.
Yeah.
Oh, but this is the one I'm talking about. I forget.
Yeah, you're talking old. I'm talking of a later one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it's called.
I mean, crazy old. This is Natufian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well, if it's Natufian beer. Natufian beer. Come on, that's going to be 14,000 years old, is it?
Yeah, something like that. Your camera just zoomed in for some strange reason, Rupert. Just so you know.
That's a bit weird.
Yeah. Graham says he realised he hasn't been watching the live broadcast. Sorry, Graham, we probably haven't been paying attention ourselves, actually. Was the sharing of Alt FPV, was the sharing of food and drink the beginning of civilization? Well, part of it, at least. Yeah, would be there. Yeah, I don't know if you can do anything about your camera, but it's very fuzzy now.
Fuzzy is just
even more than usual.
And I can't do anything about that. It was actually. Do you know what? It's very frustrating. The setup we were using a few weeks ago was very handy in some ways, and it certainly had my image clearer. But never mind.
Sorry, I'm trying to zoom through the comments so that we don't miss anything too much. Okay. Oh, I mean, it's lively. This is the thing. We used to be able to keep up with the comments, but so I'm glad to see you all there. We'll have to find a way of refining this. Okay. Are we ready to move on, Rupert?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just trying to sort out my Zoom for you.
Thank you very much indeed. What we're talking about now is the human presence in Malta earlier than previously thought. So looks a bit better, Rupert. Or have you gone back? This is obviously way before the temples on Malta. We're talking about Mesolithic settlers. It's a barrel of laughs tonight, isn't it? What is going on?
I have no idea what's going on.
Do you want to go away and come back in or something like that? That is bizarre. I don't think that's this end. I think that's you. Anyway, I'm going to continue reading this. If you want to
carry on reading, and I'm going to go away and come back again. Don't forget to let me in when I come back.
Yeah, I will. So, so what we're talking about is Mediterranean hunter-gatherers navigated long-distance sea journeys well before the first farmers. Small remote islands were long thought to have been the last frontiers, and I'm going to get rid of him. There we go. Last frontiers of pristine natural systems. Humans are not thought to have been able to reach or inhabit these environments prior to the dawn of agriculture and the technological shift that accompanied this transition. In a paper published in Nature this week, new evidence shows that hunter-gatherers were crossing at least 100 kilometres of open water to reach the Mediterranean island of Malta 8,500 years ago, 1,000 years before the arrival of the first farmers. This report documents the oldest true long-distance seafaring in the Mediterranean, before anybody goes off on one about the Philippines or Australia or whatever, before the invention of boats with sails. More on that later. An astonishing feat for hunter-gatherers, likely using simple dugout canoes. Or shall we digress about canoes and boats and things? Now, Relying on sea surface currents and prevailing winds, as well as the use of landmarks, stars, and other wayfaring practices, a crossing of about 100 kilometres is likely with a speed of about 4 kilometres per hour. Even on the longest day of the year, these seafarers would have had over several hours of darkness in open water, explains Professor Nicholas Vella of the University of Malta, co-investigator of the study. Yes, the evidence being found traces of humans in the form of their stone tools, hearths, and cooked food waste. We found abundant evidence for a range of wild animals, including red deer, long thought to have gone extinct by this point in time, explained Professor Skerry. They were hunting and cooking these deer alongside tortoises and birds, including some that were extremely large and extinct today. As well, the researchers also found clear evidence of the exploitation of marine resources. Remains of seal, various fish, grouper. Grouper? You don't catch one of those by slinging... Well, they're quite deep sea, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they're big.
Nice big fish. Good,
yeah.
Good meaty fish, that.
No, you have to know what you're doing to catch a grouper, is what I'm trying to say.
Think so.
And thousands of edible marine gastropods, crabs, sea urchins, all indisputably cooked, adds Dr. James Blinkhorn of the University of Liverpool and MPIGEA, one of the study's corresponding authors. These discoveries raise questions about the extinction of endemic animals on Malta and other small and remote Mediterranean islands, a bit like not Crete, Cyprus. Sorry,
right.
Yeah, like Cyprus. And the first Mesolithic people wiped out the hippopotami there were pygmy hippopotami on Cyprus that were wiped out by the first people that got there. Just the results add 1,000 years to Maltese prehistory and force a re-evaluation of the seafaring abilities of Europe's last hunter-gatherers, as well as their connections and ecosystem impact, says Professor Skerry. There we go. That's what we wanted to convey about that, which opens up a whole plethora.
Yes,
I don't know what people out there think about how hunter-gatherers, so-called hunter-gatherers, and the early Mesolithic people were getting about at the time. Because, I would tend to take this at face value right now in the Mediterranean. If we hadn't been researching what was going on in the Aegean, before this time, and contemporary with this. And it's quite clear from the Aegean that people were quite used to travelling these kinds of distances over open water and had been for some time. And the abundant... Yeah, go on, Rupert, sorry.
I was just going to say, we were talking about it earlier on. It's something about trade as well. That it's odd. In some ways, all right. It's not a bad thing that that some academics will, they'll just, if there's no evidence to support something, they won't even talk about it. And I respect that up to a point. The trouble is that when you've got known trade routes over large distances on open water, then to be sitting they were only in Gout canoe is, I think, just silly. To
Aidan's point, exactly. Yeah, that's what we're trying to.
And that's exactly the point, Aidan. That everybody knows, right from when you're a kid and you stand in a strong wind, you know that you can run faster with the wind behind you. I don't think it really would have been beyond the realms of ancient seagoing peoples to have figured out whatever, even if it was holding the oars up in a strong wind as opposed to trying to row at 4 miles an hour. And particularly what Mike and I were talking about earlier on this afternoon, and I was only kind of half joking, but and it was in relation to Brittany, that we know, for example, that axes were being, so that the raw material, so these greenstone axes, the greenstone was coming from the Alps, the Swiss and Italian Alps.
Along with all the other exotic materials as well, varisite and beads, the raw materials for the beads.
A lot of that was being taken to Brittany and northern France anyway, to be finished, if you like, where a lot of these prized items were actually completed. And then there's loads of them in northern Spain. And the thinking is that they went, if you imagine that on a map, that going from Brittany, you wouldn't hug the coast, because that makes the journey 3 times as long. You'd go straight south from Brittany to northern Spain. Now, I can't help thinking that if you're going to go 400 miles on open water, potentially 100 miles or so off the coast, that you're not going to do that distance with half a dozen axes in your boat. If it's a major trade route, then you're going to be carrying cargo. So to be suggesting that people were only doing this in dugout canoes is, it's okay. You can say they did what the Polynesians did, that we know historically that the Polynesians did, where they had huge dugouts that were extremely long. I can't give you an actual measurement, but Captain James Cook, recorded that they would lash these canoes together, and in some cases they would have between 200 and 500 people travelling at the same time on canoes that were all lashed together. Well, if we know that was happening with Polynesians on dugouts, then it's clearly possible, because the Polynesians travelled, we know they travelled a couple of thousand miles across the open water. So, to be suggesting that people in prehistory couldn't have been doing something similar is, it's a bit rash, I think.
Yeah, this whole hunter-gatherer thing needs complete reappraisal as far as the sophistication of their society and whatever culture, and the degree to which they were integrated with, other peoples, that they were communicating with other peoples, and to the degree, that they were far more settled. It depends where they are. If they're inland, then they probably have to move about. Coastally, although it benefits them to go out to sea, they can afford to be settled. Because why do you need to move about if the abundance of the sea is providing for you, in that particular climate that you're in? If you don't need to move about, you don't move about. If you can go out every day and catch tuna, or if you can go out and catch grouper, why would you need to move about? And I think this is shown off magnificently at the Frankthie Cave. I'm sorry, we're mentioning that again. A lot of you will be bored with us mentioning Frankthie Cave, but it's one of the most important archaeological sites in the world in terms of demonstrating the continuity of somewhere through time. Yeah, fair enough, there were breaks in it. But when you've got obsidian from Milos, 150 kilometers away, turning up in Frankthie Cave at a level of 10,000 BCE, you're thinking, well, what's going on? And at the same time, they're fishing tuna, which is a very robust animal to be catching and requires huge navigational and seafaring skills to be able to reach and fish. It just gives you a completely different complexion. So, yeah, we could go off on one about the impact that, just throwing it out there, that it will be what we'll be trying to put out there is that it wasn't just farmers moving west into Europe that created the Neolithic Revolution, brought the Neolithic package with them. We're thinking, generally based on the evidence that we've been digging up, not personally, that we've been finding out there, is all that wouldn't have happened if there hadn't been interaction between the Mesolithic people that were already swirling round and trading in the Aegean, and their skills combined with farmers that were coming from the east or had reached the east coast of Anatolia by that time. Nothing would have happened if there hadn't been the Mesolithic hunter-gatherers already doing their thing. And it's a combination of those two that, had everything, the farming move further west onto the mainland and Greece and up the Danube and all the rest of it.
Well, Mark...
Sorry, went
Mark
off on one.
said, if you can weave a basket, you can make a sail. And absolutely. And, as I mentioned earlier on, that when Mike was crashed and I was talking about Turkey, that Exi Hoyuk is one of the places where they found 8,600-year-old textile tools. Clearly, if you're making fabrics, if you're making textiles out of flax, linen, what have you, then it's just quite clearly, somebody making fabric to make clothes. Well, you know what your clothes do on a windy day when you're flapping around your legs, and it's just no. They would have had sails. I think we're all agreed, aren't we? Really.
I tell you what, guys, can I show you something? Talking about Melos and talking about Obsidian, and the trade there. This is one thing that's going to be part of the film that we bring back. This is the idea. Is that we have our friend James Dilly as
James. I don't know if you're there, James. Hello, if you are. James said he was going to be watching tonight. So.
Oh right, we have in our possession, thanks to James, some. So I'll only hold up one of them. I have three of them. It could be dangerous otherwise, but these aren't from Melos. Let me just blow myself up. I probably can't get that in focus. Oh, there we are.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
A thing of beauty.
That is an obsidian blade. And of very close in type to what was found in a site very near to Ephesus, a Neolithic, early Neolithic site very near to Ephesus, a cache of blades identical to this. So we're hoping to go there and illustrate the point. Special stuff. No wonder it was important. I've got three of those here. So wish us luck.
Yes.
Rupert
Joseph
says he's threatening to try and...
Malta. I've just got... What?
Rupert says he's threatening to experiment doing shaving with the
I'm going to try
Obsidian.
Shaving, yeah. I'll let you know how it goes. If I don't survive, I've got life insurance. Joseph said, forget Malta. I just got you guys 2 all-inclusive first-class tickets to a pristine beach on Sentinel Island.
Nice one.
Thanks, Joseph.
Yeah. Any road. Anyway, we're in the Mediterranean, so we're not going to go far for the next one, Rupert. Yeah?
No, we're not going far.
I did mention a 7,000-year-old
You did?
Road built at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. I don't think that's quite what
I don't think it was built at the bottom of the sea.
No. Careful with your headlines. A 7,000-year-old road has been uncovered at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea off the southern coast of Croatia. This monumental discovery opens a new chapter in the study of Neolithic human civilization and the development of transportation infrastructure in prehistoric times. God, it's going to be about transportation infrastructure in the Neolithic discuss. Archaeologists led by Mate Parika, hopefully I pronounced that reasonably well, University of Zadar, have revealed that this ancient road connected an island settlement to Korčula Island, a significant area that was once home to hunter-gatherers around 4,900 BC. So we're not talking about the first wave of Neolithic people. They've been settled for a while in these parts by this time, I do believe. The discovery came when Parika examined satellite imagery of the coastline near Korčula and identified what appeared to be a stone road submerged underwater. Upon diving into the site, researchers found stone slabs arranged in a path approximately 4 meters wide, now lying 4 to 5 meters underwater due to rising sea levels. These slabs are thought to have connected the Neolithic settlement on an island to the mainland, revealing new insights into how early humans interacted with their environment. Anything to say before I just move on there, Rupert?
I think the extraordinary thing here is the size of the road. The fact that it's 4 meters across. You know, they're not making a little track just to walk across. 4 meters, come on, that's huge.
Mm-mm. Yeah, they first thought it would could be part of a pathway, and upon further investigation, the researchers uncovered stone tools and other artifacts supporting the hypothesis that this was a deliberately constructed road. You don't say. So found some ceramic objects, flint knives, Parika said, which helped solidify the belief that the site was not natural, but rather an intentionally designed pathway created by early settlers. Parika and his team noted the strategic placement of stone slabs, which led them to conclude that these slabs were part of a larger communication route that connected the man-made island to the mainland. They were part of a 4 meter wide community. You're absolutely right. 4 meter wide. It's
huge.
I'm just letting that sink in for a moment.
Yeah.
How wide are Devon roads? How wide are Devon roads?
What, you mean the lanes just going down?
Yeah. 2.5
3.
if you're lucky.
Yeah.
3 to yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Two-way enough for two-way wheeled traffic. Yeah, whatever. I'm making stuff up now. Don't quote me on that.
But it's an important point though. It's a huge thing. You know, they clearly had a reason for doing that.
Yeah. When so much effort is involved, you don't over-construct. You don't do more than you really have to when it's for practical reasons, do you?
Yeah. Well, it's not just a question of the time it takes to do it. It's the fact that you've got to find that much more material with which to do it. It's just.
Yeah. The fortunate thing is that this area, unlike most parts of the Mediterranean, is safe from big waves, as many islands protect the coast, and that certainly helped preserve the site from natural destruction. This natural protection from coastal erosion and other environmental factors allowed the 70,000-year-old road to remain intact for millennia, offering rare glimpse into the ancient engineering and settlement patterns. And that's the usual blur about how significant changes in our understanding of early human activity in the Mediterranean. What more can they say? That discovery has actually been around for a while, so I'm surprised it's come up as a new one. But hey-ho. And Croatia. I wish we could go to Croatia. I wish we could go. Actually, while I'm saying I wish we could go, Rupert, We have to mention, it's all very well us jumping up and down and saying, hooray, we're going to Turkey. We wouldn't be going to Turkey if it wasn't for the help of folks out there. This is our venture is
yes, thank you very much, all of you.
Part of our GÖBEKLI TEPE to Stonehenge project. We've released quite a few films now, but we've got a long way to go to fill in the gaps between Anatolia and Central Europe and all the rest of it. So we're very dependent, to make the rest of the stuff that will complete the picture on further contributions from folk. Have a look at the Buy Me a Coffee link down below. You'll find out more on the page there.
Yeah, it is.
But like
very
I say,
much you folks making it possible. So.
Absolutely. I don't know if Croatia counts, as a pioneering sort of area as far as the Neolithic is concerned.
It's not enough of a stepping stone, really. Sadly, because good grief, we'd like to go to so many places.
But the main places that we hope, that you'll help us get to are next year, because it's Anatolia this year. We've already been to Göbekli Tepe, Çatalhöyük, and Karahan Tepe, Sayburç, and we've got films about those places. We're going to the west coast of Anatolia. This time, Greece and the Balkans. Lubinski Vir, really important site. Malta, indeed. It's not really a pioneering Neolithic site, but to miss it out would be an awful thing to do. Up the Danube.
For various reasons.
Montviso, following the route of the linear band ceramic culture and all the spring-offs from linear band ceramic. And we have already filmed some in Brittany, which is the other important site. And there are films waiting to be made here. They're on my hard drive somewhere here. And just recently, last week, released a film about Stonehenge, which we made through funding through the GÖBEKLI TEPE to Stonehenge funding on the Buy Me a Coffee site. So please do consider helping us continue to do the project. I think people are finding value in it, and we're uncovering things and pathways of thought to explaining how farming got across into Western Europe that isn't out there in the public domain. And that's the wonderful thing, that I'm finding exciting. We're at the frontiers of, in this respect, certainly in the Aegean, we're actually at the frontiers of archaeological knowledge and thinking about how things happen. There aren't really fully synthesized narratives for that out there, because archaeologists are still debating amongst themselves, because there's relatively little archaeology, strangely enough, around the islands and the places that are important to telling that story. So we're going to be looking at that as well. I didn't mean to go on for quite so long, but
I'm
thanks
going to pick up on a couple of comments now that you
please do.
Carrie said, this is in relation to the road at the bottom of the sea. Dating on the site determined by what? And the honest answer there is, don't know, because I haven't yet read the paper. I've got the paper, haven't had time to read it yet.
Oh, well done.
But it's also, they found so many artifacts down there as well, so I'd imagine it's fairly
are they dateable artifacts, though? That's the thing. Stone tools and other artifacts, unless they're finding bone, but the bone can be easily contaminated.
Don't know. I'm not going to guess
under the sea
until I've read it. I
wonder.
Well,
hats off to underwater archaeologists.
It could be pollen grains or something like that. I don't know if they'd degrade. If it's
very difficult to date things, from under the I think. But
anyway,
I don't know.
Yes, we'll look at that.
I was just going to say, hats off to underwater archaeologists.
Oh, what a job!
What?
Fantastic
and it's, job. It's something to spend days on end on your knees with a trowel in above land, but donning a wetsuit and all that stuff, they must love it.
Absolutely. Why would you not? Yeah. Joseph said, if only we could drain the sea by a few hundred meters. Do you know? When you talk about changing sea levels and how changing sea levels have erased aspects of history and prehistory, one of the things that I was completely unaware of until just looking at stuff before we go to Turkey, that Ephesus used to be a port, used to be a very, very busy port city, rivaling Alexandria and the like. And Ephesus now is 17 miles from the sea.
Miles or kilometres?
17 miles. And that's because the river silted up, as opposed to the other way around. But nevertheless, how the landscape and everything can change in 2,000 years, let alone the 8,000, 9,000 that we're talking about half of the rest of the time. It's quite staggering how the world has changed.
I'm just scrolling through, as you say, there's been a lot of comments, which bodes well. Thank you so much. Folks, but it means it's so easy to miss things. Joseph, thank you so much. That's very generous of you. Bless you. We'll carry on up the Danube as soon as we can. Okay. Am I missing anything, Rupert? I'm sure. I don't. Sorry, it seems so rude skipping past a lot of the
honestly,
chat.
No, it's difficult, isn't it? What we need is we need somebody sitting just off screen doing.
We need studio personnel, is what we need to take care of stuff that crashes and switching screens and stuff and pressing buttons. I'm just about to press a button, Rupert. Here we go. On to the next one. Press the button, Max. Ooh. Anybody got that reference? Max, press the button. I'm sure there's somebody. Bronze Age settlement uncovered during road build. Okay. The remains of a late Bronze Age settlement of considerable significance were uncovered during the development of a new road, archaeologists say. Where are we? We're in Suffolk. We're in England, by the way, just in case you were wondering, because this article, I think, is on the BBC, isn't it?
Ipswich, yes.
Ipswich, East England for us. A cremation cemetery with 18 burials, substantial pottery items and 2 roundhouses were found during excavations for Europa Way, Ipswich, which opened last month. Suffolk County Council said it indicated a 3,000-year-old settlement with a mixed agricultural economy, including cereal production and cattle breeding. Chris Thatcher of Oxford Archaeology, who undertook the dig, called it an important discovery for the understanding of prehistoric activity in the area. Cemetery contained 18 burials with radiocarbon dating, confirming it dated from circa 1200 BC. The post holes of 2 roundhouses, numerous 4- and 6-post structures and 2 ring gullies were also found in the site near Bramford and Sproughton last year, ahead of work beginning on the 2.1 million road in August. 2.1 million pound road in August. Other interesting objects, ceramics from circa 1150 to 800 BC, fragmented fired clay, weights, clay spindle wall, cremation urns and a copper alloy pin, the council said. Worked flints, including a rare example of a flint quern. Cue Rupert.
Yes. Yeah. Well, when we
flint
read
quern.
that, because I had to, in fact, called Mike. Have you heard of a flint quern before? Grinding stone. And neither of us had.
Pity there aren't
So
any pictures.
we knew a man who would. So James, hello, and thank you again if you're there. I buzzed a message to James this afternoon because that is Dr. James Dilley, if you don't know. Very much James's area of expertise and amazing work he does too. James replied, and he said, there are several flint querns in existence, including at least one from Must Farm and another from a late Bronze Age site in Kent. It was previously thought they might be some kind of a braiding tool for woodworking, but the surface polish on them suggests stone grinding and grains in between, rather than smoothing wood, etc. In both Kent and Ipswich, you get massive slabs of flint and few large slabs of glacial erratic that could be querns. So that's really interesting to know. What I'm fascinated about with this is if you think the nature of flint as a stone. I can imagine a lot of you have messed around with lumps of flint. I mean, just the noise it makes, apart from anything else, in comparison with, say, a limestone block or a basalt block. And I just thought, as a flint quernstone, that would have sung, wouldn't it? If you were grinding the right tools, that would ring while you were working, wouldn't it?
Don't know.
I just thought that must have been a special thing. It must have looked pretty, apart from anything else.
Yeah. Like I say, I wish there were
been
pictures.
Grinding a really nice polish onto a flint surface with that, wouldn't you?
Oh, incredible! Yeah. Like I say, I wish there were pictures to confirm our excitement about the possibilities there. FMK says Grok reckons Max, press the button, Max, is from Mad Max Fury Road 2017. Incorrect, I'm afraid to say. Here's another clue. When the film I'm talking about, I was 11 when it was released. I thought and here's another clue, I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. Mind you, I was only 11, so I hadn't seen that many incredibly funny things. So further, I'll give you a few more guesses before I spill the beans on why I should be doing this. I don't.
Flying machines.
Close, very close, but it's not. Very close. Same sort of genre.
Do you know what? I know it, and I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah. Actually, I shall put people out of their misery because
yeah,
The Great Race. The Great Race, starring Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon, and Peter Falk.
Good grief!
And Peter Falk was Max, and the punchline to everything, because they had this incredible car. Jack Lemmon was evil. It was the progenitor of what was the cartoon series? Was that called The Great Race? No, we've got Wacky Races. Yes, that and the dog with that laugh, that exact laugh.
Muttley. I've been called Muttley many times.
That's right. Muttley was a takeoff of Peter Falk's character. And Jack Lemmon, they had this evil car with stilts and rammers and pointy bits and guns and things. But everything had to be operated by the button, which Max had to press. So you knew something was going to happen when Jack Lemmon said, Max, press the button. Max would press the button and something would explode and they'd end up with black faces and that kind of thing. Funniest thing ever.
Lily said...
What?
Lily said there were talkies when Michael was 11.
1965.
Oh dear. Sorry.
It's a good show, this, isn't it?
Yeah.
Better get back to reality, shall I? Archaeologists unearth rare traces of first ancient factory dedicated to purple dye production. Located at Tel Shikmona. Shikmona, I don't know how to pronounce that properly, I beg your pardon. In coastal Israel, the facility had turned sea snails into purple dye at an industrial scale. Fantastic. Do you know, before we get there, do you know what the date on this is, Rupert?
I did. When I was
in the book of Exodus, God commands Moses to speak unto the children of Israel that they bring me an offering. Besides gold, silver, incense, and onyx stones, he asks for the Israelites for blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and fine linen. Biblical scholars and archaeologists have long laboured to understand how ancient people created those kinds of colourful garments and textiles, as well as the role that colour, especially purple, a rare pigment associated with royalty, played in ancient society. Now, a study published in the journal PLOS ONE reveals how one site in modern-day Israel functioned as an industrial-scale purple dye factory, the only known facility of its kind. Researchers unearthed the dye factory at Tel Shikmona, an archaeological mound on Israel's northern coast in the outskirts of Haifa. As the authors write in the study, they found an unparalleled diversity of artefacts related to the dyeing process, including more than 135 purple-stained objects. I presume purple-stained shards from the vats found at Tel Shikmona. Tel Shikmona stands out because it yielded roughly twice as many artefacts directly connected to the industry as all other known sites combined. Wow! Lead author Golan Shalvi, an archaeologist at the University of Chicago, get all that, international cooperation, tells the Times of Israel's Rosella Turketin. Turketin. Rosella Turketin. At this scale, Tel Shikmona represents the only known site in the Mediterranean region where dye production was not just a cottage industry, but a veritable business operation. Its products were sold far and wide during the Iron Age, which lasted from roughly 1100 to 600 BCE. In the past, the assumption was that the first large-scale production facilities of purple dye were only established in Roman times, around the 1st century. Co-author Ayelet Gilbar, an archaeologist at the University of Haifa, tells the Times of Israel. Tel Shikmona offers evidence that already in the 9th century BCE, purple dye was produced at an industrial scale. It was not just one individual dyeing a garment for a king. And, there it is. The source of the purple dye. How, Rupert? Tell me how.
What? Murex, what?
But who are the pioneering folk that first understood that you could extract, you could create purple dye from...
I think that that a long time ago, some people were sitting down eating their cockles, and someone had sat down on a Murex snail that, and on their nice linen robe that they'd woven, that they got a nasty green stain on it from sitting on the Murex, and that over a period of days it changed colour. They do.
It goes on to say a bit about that. Yeah,
it was, but like anything else, it must have been an accidental discovery to begin with. But on mass production, doing it in quantity, they say that there must have been quite a sophisticated chemistry about it, which I don't know. But one thing that is interesting there is, and again, how quickly the years fly by, that I remembered that we'd reported on, because it's so rare that textiles are found in the archaeological record. And I remembered we'd reported on some wool purple dyed wool that had been found in Israel. So I went to find that, and it wasn't a couple of years ago. It was actually 4 years ago, a bit over 4 years ago. But this is the excavations where they found this purple wool is about 250 miles away from this site that we're talking about now.
Yeah.
So it's quite possible that the wool that they found in I'm sorry, I can't see the name. It's called Slaves Hill in Timna Valley. But it's quite possible that the purple wool that they found there was actually dyed in this place. It's and the dating on this is actually where it said in that article that there was evidence for purple dye going back 900 years prior. Then that's the date that they gave to this wool.
It says in the article that yes, it says it's expanded from its humble origins as a Phoenician fishing village into a regional dye-making hub. It's called Tyrian purple. It's harvested from sea snails in the murex family, as we just said. To defend themselves and combat prey, the snails secrete a slightly greenish fluid which oxidizes upon exposure to air and gradually turns purple. Transforming the purple liquid into an industrially viable solution that binds with materials like yarn and linen required a complex chemical process. Details on how this process operated in ancient times are still scant. So producing on this sort of scale speaks to entrepreneurship on quite a scale as well, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And trading over long distances in dugout canoes.
Somebody would have been getting very rich, I suspect. Yeah. Anyway, you heard it here first, folks, or probably not.
It's exciting. There's a comment here from Ulla. Hello, Ulla. Just fell over your life. I presume you mean. I don't know if you mean our life or if you mean our channel, but do you do this regularly?
This channel is our life.
We do it regularly-ish.
Yeah.
There's regularly stuff on
every
the channel.
few weeks.
We do lives. We stopped doing lives for a while, but then we started doing them again.
Yeah. It's a mixed channel. So, there's films, there's specials, there's also reports, or podcast, and the occasional live as well. So
in fact, it's a timely
you never know what we're going to do next, in other words.
Well, it's a timely thing point to say. If you like and subscribe, particularly if you subscribe, then
and hit the notification
get alert
button.
You'll get notifications for when we're going to be doing stuff, so you won't miss a thing.
Of course, everybody knows that. Anyway, but there's loads of stuff. If you go on the channel, there's how many years have we been doing this? Goodness gracious! Oh, and if you want loads more stuff, there's Patreon, of course. We do a weekly podcast. We do a weekly podcast on Patreon, which nobody else gets, and we've been doing Patreon for a while, so there's loads of exclusive stuff there. And some of the stuff that's on YouTube, of course, is ad-free on Patreon as well. Okay.
Right News Network, I don't know what your name is, Right News Network says, was trying to make beer but made purple by mistake. Thank you very much.
Or purest green.
Gladius says shellac from bugs. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, insects and nature provides all sorts, doesn't it? But that's why purple was such an expensive thing, because the production process is hard and nasty.
Welcome, Steve. Thank you for subscribing.
Thank you. It's
look forward to seeing you on Patreon, Aidan. Very good. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Aidan. Great. We'll see you there.
Become part of the crew.
Lovely. We do monthly lives on, or we do Zooms on Patreon.
Oh yes, we do.
We just chat. So it'd be good to see you.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was just going to say, one of the things that is never, ever, ever discussed, and I mean, right the way through history as well, through the Middle Ages and on into the 18th century, just the stench of everywhere. It must have been appalling. When you think that, what did we use for tanning leather? Urine. People were working with stench all the time. Raking muck into the field when it's just outside, as opposed to a farm that's half a mile away. Stench. And the whole thing about purple dye is that the whole process for making murex nails into purple dye was one of the stinkiest things anybody ever had to do. I think for the Brits amongst you, I don't know if any of you ever saw. There was a kids series called Horrible Histories, and they used to just talk about the horrible things that went on in various points in history. And one of the things they talked about once was the jobs that you would never have wanted to do, and making purple dye was one of them. Just
really?
Stench, just gut-wrenching stench.
Yeah. I'm with Nelly. Rotting seafood, yuck, that's the worst thing. The rotting sea stuff is the worst smell.
And when you think that that people in some of the northern climes, and I can't think, is it the Faroe Islands, where they actually ferment fish, they leave it to rot for. They actually catch birds.
Oh no, that's an Icelandic thing. They ferment shark or something. It's one of the delicacies. It's rotted.
It's you do. Anyway,
horrible. Diana says Horrible Histories is new again on YouTube.
Is it? Okay, that's worth knowing. Thank you very much.
And Nelly says yes, it's Gree shark.
Right.
Thank you.
Well done, Nelly.
Mm-hmm. And Sweden has rotten fish too, says Ulla.
Yeah.
Very good. Who here wants to know about cats? Domestic cats. And where they came from. I warn you, because this is our last article that we're going to. It's quite a long article, and if you stick around, if there's a void in your knowledge about cats, you may want to stick around. Why are you holding your head in your hands, Rupert?
I just wonder where you're going. My cat is not on the chair beside me today.
No.
No.
Let's learn about cats together, shall we?
Let's do this.
All right. Hey.
Yeah.
I feel like I should have some.
Not from an excavation.
I think I would just go silent for a moment. I wish I had some soothing music just to play across, like one of the old interludes that we used to have on steam television once upon a time.
Kate says, I'm petting my cat right now. Do you know?
Yeah. Anyway, look, researchers looking into the origin of domestic cats have long considered that cats likely accompanied early farmers during the Neolithic, spreading through Europe alongside the adaptation of, I presume that's what it says because it's gone off the corner. Yes. Adoption of agriculture. 2 new large-scale investigations. There's a bit belt and braces over the top numbers here. One led by the University of Rome Tor Vergata in collaboration with 42 institutions, and another led by the University of Exeter with contributors from 37 institutions, reveal a more complex history than previously imagined. Cats! How many institutions are involved in this pursuit of the origins of the domestic cat?
It just illustrates that people don't need much persuading to get involved with anything about cats.
Anyway, both studies point to Tunisia as the likely origin of the domestic cat. Both studies, which merge extensive genetic data with archaeological evidence, challenge the timeline of European domestic cats and hint at cultural and religious factors that may have been pivotal in driving feline domestication and translocation. Cats have long posed a puzzle for archaeologists. Did you know that, Rupert? And all the time we've been doing archaeology,
I can get boring
have we come across puzzled archaeologists?
Cats if you want.
Fair enough. Their skeletal features and commonly used mitochondrial DNA markers can overlap significantly with those of their wild counterparts. Researchers from the University of Rome Tor Vergata led team conducted paleogenomic analyses of ancient cat specimens from 97 archaeological sites in Europe and Anatolia, as well as museum samples from Italy, Bulgaria, and North Africa. I've never known such massive effort being put towards solving an archaeological problem as this one. It's cats. In their study, the dispersal of domestic cats from Northern Africa and their introduction to Europe over the last 2 millennia, published in preprint server, 70 low-coverage ancient genomes, 17 additional modern and museum genomes, and 37 radiocarbon-dated cat remains were analysed. Results from these nuclear DNA analyses revealed that felines with domestic ancestry only appeared in Europe from around the 1st century onwards, thousands of years later than traditional narratives suggest. The Tor Vergata team also identified 2 introductory waves. An early one brought wild cats from northwest Africa to Sardinia. Wow! By the 2nd century BCE, giving rise to the island's present-day wild population. Oh, I didn't know that. A subsequent wave during the Roman imperial period introduced cats genetically similar to modern domestic lines across Europe, pointing towards Tunisia as a key centre of early domestication. In the University of Exeter collaboration study, redefining the timing and circumstances of cat domestication, their dispersal trajectories, and the exportation of European wild cats, also published as a preprint in Bio. A recently different timeline is presented. The numbers are insane. By analysing 2,416 archaeological field bones across 206 sites and cross-referencing morphological data with genetic findings, they conclude that domestic cats had already appeared in Europe by the early 1st millennium BC, before the height of the Roman expansion. Distinct mitochondrial haplogroups were discovered in Britain by the 4th to 2nd centuries BCE, suggesting Iron Age contact, with subsequent waves of introduction occurring during Roman, late Antique and Viking periods. Tunisia is also suggested as the origin point of domestic cats. I could carry on. Anything to say? I might as well finish this. I've started Soul Finish. I think it's one of those, isn't it?
I don't think you need to go into the nitty-gritty there. I think what's really particularly interesting about this is that in terms of, most felines, some of you might have seen, there's some pretty funny stuff online where they show that that big cats, tigers, panthers, whatever, that give them a cardboard box. It's just cats. Cats are cats, and the fact that if you go back to however deep into the past, when people were settling down and farming, that in fact, was it Steve? Somebody mentioned something in the chat that relates to this, that wild cats would have come to settlement areas, because as soon as we start keeping grain in large quantities, then you're going to have large numbers of rodents and large numbers of birds trying to nick your grain. So the cats.
Bye-bye, Carrie. Thanks for being with us.
Bye-bye, Carrie. Thank you. Cats would have exploited that situation. The differences, physiologically, particularly the differences between wild cats and domestic cats, is almost non-existent. Actually, the wild cats, and I'm not talking about a breed like the Scottish wildcat, for example, just wild cats.
Just to interrupt you, Rupert, Joseph has a very interesting comment to make, breakthrough comment. So what we're to understand from this is that cats have been cats for a substantial amount of time.
Indeed. Indeed. You can't argue with that, can you?
You can't argue with that.
And Tony B has just given us a
well
super
distinguished.
Chat. Thank you very much, Tony. That is really generous. Thank you. But the thing is that...
brilliant. Bless you. Thank you, Tony.
You would select for, different traits in exactly the same way that we've done with dogs. That you would choose the cat that was less aggressive. And over time, that just became the domestic cat, just the ones that were starting off as the ones that were happier to be around people or didn't care about being around people. It is really interesting that, when you think, that the assumption that the domestication of cats went back a long way, turning out not to be accurate, I find really interesting, because as people have been joking there, dogs have owners, cats have staff, and it's really true. One of my favorite memes in years was just a thing of a kitten next to one of the Egyptian cat statues, and the Egyptian cat is the statue is saying, "Do they still worship cats now?" And the kitten says, "Well, I shit in a box and they clean it up." And the statue goes, "Good." That's just about the way it is, isn't it?
No, I was going to say about the Egyptian thing, because the Egyptian thing doesn't jibe with the conclusions of this research, does it? Because as Eric pointed out, the oldest cat mummies in Egypt are 4,500 years BP, 2,500 BC.
I don't think that they can make this a blanket statement across all cultures. In fact, it was a very close friend of mine was actually responsible for X-raying all of the cat mummies in the British Museum. Sadly, she's no longer with us, or I'd have got her on the show. But yeah, as you say, some of those are significantly older. But I think Egypt is a strange kind of island in that crossover of prehistory to history, isn't it?
Yes, which is probably why we tend not to go there.
Yeah.
But that's another story. I've never been quite so taken aback by the sheer numbers of people or institutions and archaeological records that have been ploughed through to make this study. I can't think of a study of human genomes that have involved quite so many people, or not that hasn't been recorded as such anyway.
I think it's
I'm sure
it's a phenomenal piece of research from that point of view. I'm in awe of the fact that they've been that thorough, and it just shows how many people wanted to be involved.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it does mention all the places where cats have been worshipped as well. But like I say, it's a long article, so I'm not going to go right through it. And that, my friends...
Terabytes said the Earth can't be flat. If it were, cats would have pushed everything off the edge by now. Yep.
Oh, proof positive. Can't argue with that either.
Yeah.
But that, folks, is all we've got for now. No doubt we'll be back and jumping up and down. We'll do another live or something as soon as we can after we get back from Turkey to keep everybody in the loop as to what was going. We'll also be doing our best to communicate from Turkey. Can't promise anything. What I've just discovered is, though, Rupert, that we can do lives. Oh, we can do it to YouTube as well, but we can do lives straight to Patreon now.
Well, we'll do our best to give you some.
We'll do our best. Yeah, I mean, it's not like Izmir is the end of the world. It shouldn't be a problem. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be able to put out as much stuff as we can and communicate as much as we can while we're on the road. But I know from previous experience we get so tunnel vision and focus, and because we don't have a producer saying, do this, do that, do the other, pay attention to this, think about the folks back home, that we tend to get rather tunnel vision when we're out and about.
We do a bit, yeah, we'll see. Thank you, Graham. Thank you very much.
Lily, thank you, Lily. It's certainly been entertaining tonight. I don't know about that. Anyway, it'll stand. It is what it is.
Ulla, just the last comment there. Ulla has said, "Where are you going in Turkey?" Did you miss that? We're going to.
Oh yeah.
Just in a nutshell, we're going to Ephesus, Kukurichi Hoyuk, Yesilova. Come on, Michael, help me. Senior moment, third one.
Yesilova Hoyuk, which is in the province of Izmir.
Ephesus.
Uluchak.
Yes.
And we'll be on the Kuruburan. And we're going to go to a place on the Kuruburan Peninsula, which actually hasn't been excavated yet. We're going to do a field walk.
That's exciting.
And hopefully find some early Neolithic pottery.
Yes.
Right on the Aegean there. Yeah. So fingers crossed for the weather and all that. Oh, deep thanks again from thanks Joseph for that. That's Reet Grand. Yeah. Do you guys have any thoughts about that under the Giza Plateau pillars hogwash of recent note?
Well, apart from the fact that it is hogwash. I mean, it's beyond hogwash, and it's just I don't know how much clickbait happened and how much money people made from duping people into thinking that there was anything. But
it's shocking.
Even Zahi Hawass came out saying no, nothing has been found.
Yeah.
It's just
he's
something else. There's ground penetrate, so what they said they used, the techniques that they used to find it, well, the techniques that they used can only penetrate to about 10 feet into the ground, roughly, and they're talking about something that was a couple of kilometers down. Stop it, go away, leave us alone. It was just beyond silly, and I don't know how it started or where it came from. Maybe it's just some people who needed to top up their viewing figures or something. I don't know. But it was nonsense.
And on that bombshell.
Yes.
I think it's time.
Thank you very much for sticking in, folks. I'm amazed that
I really
after all that.
I thought that was the end of it because my computer completely ceased. And here we are. We're still here. Not a problem since. What was that about?
Still here, and so are you. So
don't know.
Thanks very much. And read the super chats, please, Joseph. Why have we got messages as well? What do you mean?
Read the super chats, please. Yes. I have to go scroll back. Thank you so much, Joseph. That's most generous. Anyway, I'm going to say bye-bye now, Rupert. We are done
yes,
here.
What is it now? It's 11:10 here. I'm going to go and have a glass of wine with my wife.
That'll be nice.
Thank you ever so much, folks. And we will see you next time. You take good care.
I'm going to press the button, Max. Bye.